Hello, today we are looking at gears. So we can see a couple laser cut gears here. And we're going to see how we can make these in TinkerCAD. Notice these two would not work well together. You need the size of the teeth to match up here. So this is going to be very important here. Those seem to be working. So we're going to start small, but eventually we hope to get to the giant gear wall and do some stuff with that. So let's get started here. We are doing a quick little walkthrough of how to use TinkerCAD here. So, when we're making gears in TinkerCAD, we need to go, we're not in basic shapes anymore. We're going to shape generators. We're going to go to all, and we're scrolling down. This should be on page 3, unless something has changed. Hopefully it hasn't. And we have 5 different types of gears out here. You'll see 5 different types here on the right side. Most of these are really going to work for our laser cutter. You can see this one on the far right. This is some sort of bevel gear, they call that one. We're not going to get that. We're working in 2 dimensions, so that one's out of there. That's this cone metric one here. The other ones, they look pretty good. They would work, but they don't have a center hole, so we're going to get rid of those ones too. So the only one we're actually going to be using, only use this useful gear. The only reason we're choosing this one is because it has that pre-made center hole there. Makes it a lot easier to design with. So once you pull it out here, we have a couple different things here that we can play with. The biggest one that we need to keep the same every time, whatever it is, needs to be the pitch, that top number. We saw a second ago that certain gears will work together and certain ones won't. That's the size of the teeth. The pitch is controlling the size of the teeth there. So if you want to make a set of gears and you want to set it as 10, you could. Just every gear you make needs to have the pitch be 10. In the future, we can look at how to make certain gears work together in some different combinations, but for now, whatever you choose, let's keep this a reasonable number somewhere in there. Maybe like 4 or 5 or something like that. You know, some number that's in there somewhere. And then we also are going to have some little tiny nails to put in there, which is going to be the bore diameter. You're going to have to measure that. Right now this is in millimeters. This should always be in millimeters. So you have to measure that so that when we put our little thumbtack in there or nail, that it fits nicely. It should be a little bit extra. So if you measure it and it's exactly 1, make it like 1.2 or something like that. Anyway, you can play with that number right there. And you can see that hole gets bigger and better, you know, in different ways there. Height. For laser cutter, that doesn't really matter. That's how tall it is, right? We can see it got taller there when you play with that. Don't worry about that. Number of teeth. This is the fun one, right? So if I make a couple of these, I'm just copying this one real fast. You are going to change how big it is, essentially. If nothing else is changing, you're changing how big it is based on the number of teeth. So this ratio is going to get kind of fun and interesting here as you make a couple different gears. And notice I'm going by 5s. There's numbers that kind of, these are just ratios. So think like division, right? What numbers go into each other well might be a nice way to start thinking about this. We'll play around with some of these in class and you'll kind of get the feel of what these ratios are going to go and do and stuff. And, you know, anyway, for now, that's the basics of it. When you're ready to export, let's tuck these in nice and close, not touching, but somewhere nice and close to each other. And we're going to export. But that's the basis of it. Remember, your bore diameter needs to be the right size. Your pitch needs to stay constant, the same number. Whatever it is, it needs to stay the same. So you can see real fast here when I change that number. Those are no longer going to be working together because the teeth aren't going to mesh up correctly. Hope that is a good little starter introduction for you. Enjoy. Let's gear it up. Adios.